Welcome to season 2 of 2 Feet in the podcast, where inspiring women are focused on empowering other women. 2 Feet in the podcast will explore ideas to produce you into action. This is the place to break down ideas, get a strong dose of motivation, and learn to live 2 feet in. Today is the day to get up and get moving on your dreams with me. I am the coach, Heather Macy, and I'm excited to teach you how to live 2 feet in. Joining 2 Feet in the podcast today is Coach BRIANNA FINCH, an inspiring woman focused on empowering other women. Currently, she's the Director of Player Development at Davidson. She has 2 decades of experience at the college and professional levels. She's a keynote speaker. She's the co-author of the book, Championship Basketball Plays, and has been published in Basketball Sense magazine. What's up, Coach Finch?
Hello, thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
Well, we're thrilled that you're on the podcast. I've been wanting to have you on. You have such a unique perspective from the international game as well as the college game. Tell us what's new in your world.
Yeah, well, thank you again for everything and having me on. I'm excited to be here. And what's new? I'm actually trying to use this kind of off season. It's kind of our low key time before we start camps and July recruiting. And I'm really taking the time to do a little bit more journaling, a little bit more self-reflection than I think I've done in the past. Also tried to do that this season. First season, I've really journaled a lot more. I don't know if it was just because of the craziness of COVID that kind of, changed everybody's perspective on, how important is basketball right now, like in the big scheme of things. But that's kind of what I've been really diving into, and that, in that way is just really like, how can I be better? Going through my notes, kind of thinking about the ups and downs of the season and how I was feeling. So that's been big for me. I have a couple of small side projects that I'd like to dive into, but haven't quite had the chance yet too. I feel like we've been out of season, but it's only, for a long time, but it's really only been like 2 weeks.
Okay, I need to ask, because journaling is, one of the major things as I talk about how to be an elite performer, it's about journaling. Right. Well, what's the technique to journal and be consistent in your journaling?
That's a great question. Because that's actually, like I said, this is really, I've always, I agree. Like I've listened to many, prominent speakers talk about journaling and how important and how great. And I, encourage our players to do it. And then I'm like, I have not been able to get into this habit and I need to do it. And so this year, that's kind of, again, what I tried to focus on. And I've always written like notes and thoughts after practice, before practice, like on my practice plan, but then, I keep them all, but I never really have a comprehensive, formulation of thoughts. Right. So I have 2 different notebooks, and I would use one. I would just put all my thoughts pre-practice, post-practice in there, specifically related to basketball, same thing, pre-game, post-game. And then I had another journal that I would keep at home that was just kind of more next to my bed, and just anything kind of, when I'm laying in bed or first thing in the morning, like just trying to have it readily accessible so that I could try to, anything that came to mind, and just would get it off my, chest right away. And it's been amazing. I will tell you, I'm much better in the basketball journaling than I am the personal. That's still very much a work in progress, but I feel very good about getting into the habit with the journaling for, basketball related and coaching related thoughts.
All right, so let's dive into this a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Coaches are so focused on the outcome, the performance, preparation, and a lot of times, me too included in what you're saying, is the reflecting back. I think we're afraid to do because it may set us back and not help us be as good as we can be, when truth be told, it's the way I learned to become a head coach. So and I work with younger coaches, the first thing I say is, you fold up your practice plan. I'm doing it here with you. I'm ready. And so you fold your practice plan, and because you don't think you'll forget to ask coach at the end of practice. Right. I would jot everything down right beside that drill. Like, why in this drill do we have them start at the hash mark? Or why don't we use 4 balls versus 6 balls? And so one of the techniques, obviously that, and then I would ask my head coach about those things. But then I would open up the back after practice and kind of write my practice, like how can I become a better coach, and what, you know. And then obviously that was back in the old days when it was all copies, and I put it in my 3-ring binder and kept it forever. I still have all that stuff. And the best thing from a personal perspective with the journaling is, I had actually someone on the podcast mention this. Randy Doss said he takes his notebook or whatever he's journaling in and puts it on his pillow.
Oh, wow.
So at night, you know, you can't get in bed without at least touching it.
Yeah.
And so there's more of a shot that you may write in it if you've touched it. So dive in. I said 100 things there, but dive in a little bit. Is it coaches that we have such a hard time being reflective?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, you know, as coaches, where our brains are kind of wired to always look to the next thing, right? Like we're just constantly looking, you know, whether it's professionally, career-wise, whether it's recruiting, whether it's game planning, or, you know, we're like, our brains are just kind of wired into that next phase of whatever it is. And I think it's hard, especially in season. But I honestly, even out of season, because you're always recruiting, especially at the collegiate level. But I think, you know, taking that time to look back is just, it's so important for your development, and really just like, even like reaffirming things that you had right. Like there's a lot of things, you know, again, like, you know, I was an assistant coach for a long time, and then I was a head coach for 3 years, and then I've been back as an assistant. And so there's things for me where, you know, I'm still trying to, you know, like you, I would write down, and I kept a pen in my pocket and my practice plan, you know, on my hip. And in practice, like there's things I'm writing down, like that I see that, you know, we're not going to talk about with the head coach right in the middle of practice, but, you know, to bring up later. But you know, I'm trying to train my mind to be able to see the things that I would like to see as if I was a head coach again, and to be able to bring the ideas to our program. And so, you know, being able to go back and look at some of those ideas, you know, over the course, like I was like, oh, maybe I saw this, you know, 3 weeks ago, and it came up, you know, as we're talking, and I'm going back and I was like, oh, I did see that. Like I did, you know, okay, that, you know, I feel good about that. I was able to, you know, notice that, you know, maybe we could have corrected that or whatnot. And, you know, I think there's just so many benefits to it, and emotionally, like it was also interesting to kind of, I could tell in my writing the days where I, you know, like was a little bit more emotionally spent versus days where I probably had more energy. You know, again, it was a long season for everybody, and I just think those are things we really have to be cognizant of, and, you know, and aware of ourselves. And the more we can do that, the better, you know, the better coaches we're going to be, and the better we're going to be able to show up for our players and our program and our, you know, coworkers.
We know as educators, if we're writing it down, the ability to retain it, that percentage elevates. And that's part of why I have our kids keep a journal and say after practice, especially the young ones, write in what you learned, review it before you come upstairs tomorrow so that we can make a new mistake.
Right.
So I just want to challenge coaches specifically, but truly anyone listening that is in a high intensity, high performance job, that the ability to write those things down, you'll make new mistakes. When you're not writing it down and you're not learning from it, you tend to keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Thus, eventually, it's going to catch up to you. And you know, when everybody wants to journal is when they're in adversity, they're having a really hard time. Right. Journal before the adversity, you know, and then maybe the adversity is pushed down a little bit longer. Okay, all right, I've gone on and on about journaling. The point is Coach Finch and I agree that we should all be journaling. Okay, so let's jump on to something really important, which is the hot seat at 2 Feet in coaching. So tell us this, Coach, what has been your greatest faith over fear moment?
Going to Denmark, absolutely 100%. You know, I was speaking with a colleague probably about a year after my experience coaching in Denmark, and he put it beautifully. He said, "You were willing to take a risk on yourself as a coach." And I, I didn't think about it at the time. I just wanted to be a head coach, and that was my pathway. And so I did it, and it was the best decision I could have made. But I mean, I was coaching college, and I had the chance to go, and I showed up on August 1st in this tiny town off the coast of Denmark. And 8 days later, I had my first game with FIBA rules, which, to be honest, I did not know all of them at the time. I had never seen my team play. I didn't, we had new players that were new to the club, didn't know anything about the league, and, just got thrown into the fire. And I just had to, I'd never been a head coach. And yeah, I had to, fake it till I made it, and, really took a chance on myself that I was, I could do it. And it was the best decision professionally that I could have made. And also personally, like, living in a different culture is absolutely amazing. I didn't speak Danish. I don't speak Danish. I still don't. But it was absolutely amazing, in every possible way. And I'm so thankful that I took a chance, and I went for it. And, I had to believe that it was gonna, make me better and work out and be a good experience. And it was.
So being a head coach for the first time, what was the greatest challenge, or like, what was like the worst thing? Like, what did you screw up on, like the worst?
Oh, honestly, I think initially it was really hard for me to balance my personality, which I'm pretty calm, I'm pretty laid back. I really do try to empower the players, but at the same time, I had to really understand that at the end of the day, I was still the boss. Like, I was still the CEO. I had to make the hard decisions. Specifically in Europe, it's mostly about playing time and structure and that kind of thing. And that was, and then not only that, but the conversations around that. There were players that were unhappy. I mean, I had a professional player who she was from another country. She wasn't one of my Americans, but I was playing a 16-year-old Danish kid ahead of her because I thought she was more talented, and I thought she fit what we needed better. And that was that was a kind of bold decision, but I thought it was best for our team and our success. And I thought she had earned it. And I had to have that conversation. And I think, as a first-time head coach, having those hard conversations when you haven't practiced or been the one doing it is really difficult. And to be honest, at that time, I wasn't, but, 4 or 5 years older than her, because she had been a professional, in Europe for many years. And so I think that was definitely, and I don't know if I handled it well. I did my best, but in retrospect, I probably could have handled it better and differently. But I think that was probably the most challenging thing for me.
All right, let's put you in an elevator at your most favorite hotel. And when you get on the elevator, you hit the button to the 34th floor. And as the elevator doors start to close, the person comes in. And that person needs you that day. In less than the ride up to the 34th floor, describe your accomplishments, impact, and generally encourage them for the rest of their day.
So I'm going to start with my why. Like, why do I do this? And that's because I did not have a good college experience. I spent my senior year going home in tears, and I promised myself in that moment that I wouldn't, as a coach, like, I didn't want anybody to have that experience. And I wanted to make sure that, players that I was able to, work with would not have any regrets. And so that's shaped my entire coaching career. Is my whole purpose is to be compassionate, to empower the people that I work with and the players that I have the opportunity to coach, And, that's what I've tried to do every single day that I've been coaching for almost 2 decades, as you reminded me. And so that's, again, that's kind of where my accomplishments, in the same way, like the speaking engagements, the books, I want to be that role model. I want to be that person, that steps outside of my comfort zone, that pushes myself, that challenges, that walks what I talk. And so that's where, I've, put myself out there with everything, and I want to share, and I want to learn, and I want to continue to grow as well. And, I love what I do, and I'm thankful that I get to do it every single day, but that's my why, and that shapes everything I do and what I've been really lucky to accomplish.
All right, I love that. Let's tell some stories. Old
Okay,
self,
I love
new
stories.
self. I know, old self, new self, and you're a great storyteller. So give us your younger self version relative to current day.
Ooh, so many ways. My younger self version did not enjoy the moment. Very type A. I'm still a lot type A, but I was always, what's the next thing? I had to, as you meant, like I had to work my way up. I was a JUCO assistant. I was a NAIA assistant, then a D2 assistant, then a D1 assistant, then back to a JUCO assistant. And, I was always just kind of climbing and climbing and climbing and putting my head down and just working. And not that that's a bad thing, but I think I missed out on a lot of really good opportunities to, learn from other people, engage with other people. I think I could have had more experiences. But I was just trying to get to the next level. And now I definitely realize how important staying in the moment is, and really embracing the opportunity to, learn from others, share others, talk about stories. Maybe it's because I have so many stories now that I value it a lot more, but I definitely feel like, the older I get, the wiser I get. That's definitely true.
Okay, what lessons did you learn the hard way that you would love our listeners to take from you and say, hey, listen, learn from Coach Finch's experience?
Well, I think that the first one is what I just kind of talked about, like really embrace the moment, and the opportunity and everything, like not just professionally where you are, but, I lived in Salt Lake City, and I never went to Mount Zion National Park. And I know it's terrible, and I regret it. And, but I was head down, kind of next thing. And so I, again, not just professionally, but personally, like take advantage of the opportunities of where you are and who you're with. And then I think the other thing is really understanding how important, people use the word networking, but I just think relationships, like really understanding how important people are, and, listening when people talk, and, staying in contact with people. I work very hard at that, and I like to think I'm pretty good at it, but, it's important to me, and I like people. I just genuinely like people. So I think if, you can understand that earlier and just realize how valuable that is, I think that's huge in life in general.
So I'll bring up a lot of people when I ask like old self, new self, and kind of get into that, they say the exact same thing. Type A's like us, and we did head down. We're fast tracking. That's the only thing that's important to us. And I do think to accomplish big things, there needs to be a level of singular focus. So I would argue that had you not said head down, you would have accomplished the things that you've already accomplished in this 20-year career. At the same time, how do we explain to a young person that's about to embark on what we've just done that you do have to work very, very hard, and you do have to be really, really focused. But at the same time, every once in a while, it's okay to go over here and do that, or go over here and handle that, that's healthy? Would that be more of a way? Could you explain that more?
No, you know what? You're right. That's a great point. Because I I do value hard work. I do value, you know, the the fact that I did have to, scrape and claw and grind it out, as people would say, and to get to where I am and to, have accomplished the things that I've been able to do. But I do think we have to try to instill, maybe at a little bit younger age, yeah, that there's a place for balance, and there's an opportunity for balance, and maybe just a little bit more of, I know people say, use the term showing up every day, and in order to be able to really show up and give everything every day, there has to be some boundaries that that we put around, our time and our energy, in pockets where we can, and obviously in coaching and, professional, professional world, like, you have to find those pockets. They're hard to find sometimes, but I do think that we have to, understand that there's value in that as well, to be able to show up as much as we want and as hard as we do every single day. And just
Okay,
maybe
2 feet in, quick
that.
style questions,
Okay.
rapid fire time. Lock in and let's go. Coach, give us your best quotable.
Ooh, I would say life begins when you step outside of your comfort zone.
Book recommendation of the decade.
Ooh, of the decade. So I'm going to go back a little bit. The Power of One by Bryce Courtney. Fantastic. There's actually, it's a series, and there's another one in the series called Tandia. But it's a fiction novel, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful book.
Podcast or video to expand our listeners' thinking.
Ooh, I listen to so many besides this one. I really like The Talent Equation with Stuart Armstrong. It has, all different sports and different, sports psychology, different areas of sports, and it's great.
Key to habit stacking or creating a routine that works.
Ooh, I putting it in front of you. The example you gave as far as, putting a journal on your bed, putting whatever, that habit you want to create, making it at the forefront of your day is at least the right step in the right direction.
You get one phone call. To whom and why?
Anytime, like any person, any living or past?
Absolutely.
I'm going to go with RGB, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Like, I think she was a miraculous woman in every sense of the word.
No question. Okay, Coach, give us your final thoughts. Tell our viewers what's up with you and give us your final takeaways.
Oh, I do what you love. That's going to be my advice. And what's new with me? I'm trying to live what I just talked about. I'm trying to stay in the moment. It's still very much a work in progress for me. I always am a forward looking person. I'm a planner. And so, obviously, like we said, type A driven, but, stay in the moment. I think I accomplish more when I stay in the moment. I think I show up better when I do that. So that's what I'm trying to do. Working on some side projects, personal, like I want to kind of dive deeper into, like feedback. It's a kind of a passion of mine within the coaching area. And also the mental health aspect. I'm trying to learn from a lot of other coaches on, things we can do better to support our athletes in that realm. So those are just some personal projects.
I love it. Thanks to our guest and friend, Coach BRIANNA Finch, for being part of the 2 Feet In experience, reminding us, take a chance and go for it. Stay in the moment and learn and share with others. To learn more about Coach or to reach her directly, please visit the show notes. That's been Coach BRIANNA Finch on season 2 of 2 Feet In the podcast, where inspiring women are focused on empowering other women. Thanks to all of our guests and our sponsors for locking in with the 2 Feet In experience. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
KJ is going to cut us off.
Or we're just going to stare at each other.
He'll edit this. We'll give him more things to edit to get this working. But thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, no, absolutely. It was awesome.
This was great. This was super great. I really, really appreciate it.
Good. I'm glad. I enjoy it. I think it's awesome. You do so much. I am in awe.
I don't hardly do anything. This is my life slow down.
No, like between this and your rising coaches, and then you're actually coaching.
Yeah, I do have a team. We're 2 games below 500, but I do have a team.
We all are right now.
We'll be a little bit better. Last year we played with 47 practices, 15 games, and we were terrible. But I'm thinking, everybody's back, and everybody kept their year of eligibility, so we should be much, much better. Yeah. But I want to be a better coach for them. I don't think we have elite talent, so I want to be better for them, and that's part of this lunch and learn stuff that I'm setting up. Yeah, so
that's awesome.
Bring all your best transition offense and defense ideas.
Okay,
maybe a European flair, maybe some European flair to it, or no?
Yeah, we can. I'm going to start going through my notes. It's funny you were talking about the binders, and I have 3 stacks of binders right here on my desk.
Me too, because we're old. When me and you both, I could say the same. I like to say 20 years because 2 decades seems like a lot. So, but I've been doing it 20 years too. It's
crazy.
It's on paper to, yeah, it's awful. It's terribly awful.
No, it was funny. I was catching up with a colleague, the very first boss I ever worked for. And there's only 2 people that I've worked for in this profession that are still in the profession, which is crazy to me. So
I know.
I like to think that's a victory in and of itself that we're still doing it for 2 decades.
It is a victory because most people aren't able to sustain this level of stress and pressure and criticism. And no, it is a huge accomplishment. It's a huge accomplishment. Okay, I'm looking forward to Wednesday.
Likewise.
Okay, I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link as it gets closer.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks so much.
Tell everybody up there I said hey.
Will do. Bye.
Okay, bye.